Well, yeah, productivity is a big topic, and because I have been using Notion for quite some time, it's not
Hmm.
like my primary thing because my primary is always like a notebook and a pen for sure. There's
Hmm.
another one that I've seen, like an what do you call it, an update in Notion. It's the AI that they have.
Hmm.
Coming on to another topic, the next topic, which is the AI, and a lot of people
Hmm.
have questions about it and around it, and they're worried about it. So about AI, first of all, have you used AI before in
Yes.
in your work? In your work,
Yes.
do you want to share how it went?
Yes. And I was on the fence too. A lot of people, I think, when there's something new, there's hesitation. And I'm the same
Hmm.
way. There's a certain level of hesitation until I understand it to a degree, so I know whether it's something that's right for me or it's not. And what really tipped it for me was actually a month ago. I went to Art Center to listen to Chris Do talk, my mentor, previous boss, Chris,
Yeah,
and he had a hot take on AI because he's all in on AI, and he's a lot more black and white about it, a lot more drastic in terms of, hey, you better adopt this because you're going to get left behind. And he comes from the background too of being a designer, being an artist himself. And so I thought it was interesting to hear his take. And I think everybody gets caught up on whether it's like, okay, is it stealing artwork? Is it cheating? Like all these things that I think we've judged each other on. Now we're judging the computer on doing. But really, I think what changed it for me, I just had to shift the lens. So AI, for me, the way that I use it, and this is something that I learned from Chris, really is it's my writing partner. So the way I use it the most right now is with writing. So for instance, I'll take you through the process. I'm writing a script right now. So I'm going to do an outline and then I'm just going to write. And it's like, do, 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 do. And it's like so many pages long. Usually the next step is me reading through it and trying to rewrite everything because it's like, this could sound better. Or how do I say that in less words? You know what? And now I have a writing partner. Now I can take the AI, whether that's in Notion or ChatGPT, and I'll be like, um, improve, hey AI, improve the writing on this. Hey AI, write this shorter, write this longer. And the interesting thing is what comes out isn't necessarily great. Like it's okay. It's okay.
yeah,
It's okay. But what's interesting is that it will use words that I necessarily wouldn't have used. So it's helping me to expand my vocabulary. It's using phrases that I don't commonly use. So it's helping me expand that. And it's just giving me a different perspective. So if I say, this tool helps me do something faster, the way that the AI might frame it is completely different. And it's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. Or now I have these extra set of phrases and words that I could use and infuse that back into my round three, because round one was from me, round two was from the AI, and then round three is me editing it back down. So taking what pieces that are relevant from the AI, that I think sound good, because I'm still curating those things, and then infusing that to help me do my next round. And I just kind of keep going back and forth. If I'm really stuck up, it's like it's stuck on something like, let's say, hey, this paragraph, it's 6 sentences long, and I really need it to be two. I'm going to keep challenging the AI with different prompts to help me shorten that, shorten that, shorten that. And the good thing about that is it will generate dozens, hundreds of results if I wanted to. But it usually only takes about like maybe about five, 3 to 5, where I'm like, ooh, okay, there's enough here. It's like I'll use this part, I'll use this part, and I'll use this part. Boom. And guess what? It came from me to begin with. So it's like taking my own words, helping me look at it in a different way, and then helping me in my process, the editorial process, for getting it to where I need it to be. And it's taking a lot of the heavy lifting off because as a creative person, as a creator, you have to wear multiple hats. You have to be the creator, and then you have to switch hats and then be the editor and look at it without your bias as best as you can, objectively as you can. It's like, how can this be better? Is this doing the thing that we thought it is doing, and is there any way to make this flow and be more refined? Right, it's really hard to always switch hats because you get attached and it's a lot of labor. I get lazy sometimes, like, oh my gosh, I just spent 4 hours, 8 hours writing this thing's like, I don't want to write it again. Imagine like you're back in school and you have to write an essay, and then you have to write the essay again, and then write the essay again. It's like, no, you don't do that in school. But when it comes to art and things that you're putting out there, it's like you have to do that, right? You have to iterate until it gets to the point where it's like, ooh, this is good. It is solving the problem. So AI has just helped me in my own process to be a my work buddy. I work alone mostly, but it's my
Hmm.
coworker that I pay very little to, doesn't ever complain, and is always helpful for me and just tossing stuff back to me.
Yeah, I agree because yesterday, I think I started to write fresh questions for this session, and I was like, I should just write it in Notion because, it's there, and I can go back and check it out. And I wrote everything, and I was like, should I just experiment with AI? And I just see like,
Mhm,
interview questions for Matthew Encina. I just wanted to see what it pops up after I've written the basics of it
mhm,
down, and it gave really good questions. And I was like, oh, that is interesting. Whatever I was trying to say above, it just kind of, what do you call it, a sweet spot of questions,
mhm,
And it took me two tries, but yeah,
mhm.
yeah, it kind of vomited really good questions.
Yeah, and I think there's so I two things to respond to that. One is never take it at face value, right? Like for me, it's like the stuff that it spits out. It's like sometimes it's good. It's never great, at least from my experience. But if you have a good uh, uh, curative eye, editorial eye to be able to extract like, oh, I could use that. That's a piece I could use. That's a piece I could use. You're still you're still shaping it as the artist, as the author to be what it needs. So just use it. It's a tool that helps you get there a little bit faster. It won't necessarily give you the result exact as you need it, but it helps you get there. So I think it's just a nice infusion, a layer onto how we work. The other part is just there are so many ways to use this tool and it's just growing. So another example that I wanted to share was how Chris uses it. So for instance, he likes to talk. His favorite way is interacting with people, right? So he'll do interviews, he'll do videos, and then he might have like a 2 hour conversation, right? So if he's doing that in something like Zoom, for instance, Zoom will extract the script from that, the transcription of what was being said, and then what can he do from there? He can take that and have an AI tool summarize that. It's like from this 2 hours, what were the main points from this conversation? Let's turn it into 10 bullet points. And then all of a sudden it surfaces that for you. So imagine you're doing that in a client meeting. You have a 2 hour client meeting. What were the top 10 points? And then it will do its best to extract those for you, very helpful in your process. So you don't necessarily have to do that. And then obviously you can edit, don't take it for face
Yeah.
value. And then once you have extracted some points, then you could give it another prompt. It's like, let's help write me an article based off of these 3 points on value based pricing, for instance. Then it will write an article for you, and then you go in and then so all of this, if it's coming from you, the source, the author, and you're just using the tool to help look at your work in a different angle or put it out in a different way, this helps you become a lot more productive as a tool. And I'm starting to discover this myself, and it's becoming fantastic to have this again as a writing partner to help me improve and refine my work.
We have talked about writing with AI, right? What do you
Mhm.
think about DALI? Because I've seen a lot of people generating NFTs through DALI, and it has been taking from other people's art. Like we have seen it before, like in the news and everything. I have used
Mhm.
DALI before myself, and it has been
Mhm.
really, really helpful. But so for me, whenever I get editorial illustration prompts, right, from clients, it takes me a long time to settle down on one idea. So I used DALI recently to just spit out a lot of ideas, just layouts and colors. So
Mhm.
I could just, combine, mix and match for whatever I feel like I want. So that
Mhm.
reduced about 4 to 5 hours of brainstorming for me in general. So it was a
Mhm.
great tool for me, but I've seen a lot of people using the image that it spits out directly and using it
Mhm.
for making money or
Mhm.
NFTs or all of that. And we have seen artists, illustrators, painters getting. stolen from, and I would like to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I don't want to comment necessarily on the ethics of that aspect of that because a lot
Mm,
of that is subjective, right? Um, until you're a victim, you don't really know, and you can't really feel the same way that somebody who's on the other side of it, who's like they've never made art in their life and they have this tool where they can generate beautiful visuals. Like they have a very different perspective on the world. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. I don't like to play in absolutes like that, and I think it's kind of a fluid situation that's developing and growing. And
mm,
so I don't necessarily think that there is a right or wrong there. It's not a hard line. It's very, very blurry because even us as artists, as creatives, we reference all the time. We really
true.
do, right? Right? For us to develop an idea, we are a blend of all of our experiences and the things that we've seen and the things that we research. So the AI is doing the same thing, right?
Yeah,
So that aspect I think is defendable. It's like it's already doing the thing that we were doing. But in terms of having the AI generate something and then using that straight up for something else, like to me that's where the big question mark is. I don't know how I feel about that. I haven't had enough of my own experience. I don't know a lot of people on either side of that aspect of it. So I don't want to comment out of turn. All I can comment is the things that I've experienced and how I've used it. And then some of the things where I feel like, okay, this is a tool and it's just
yeah,
shortcutting things that we already do.
that's true. Have you used the visual AI for something for yourself before?
Uh yes, I've just dabbled in it. I honestly I haven't used it a whole lot, but I know what the key thing there is just art direction. So normally, if I'm on a team, I would art direct my artists. It's like, hey, I would love this character. I want him to look this way, a little mean, a little long and lanky. Let's have cool colors. And then I would do my best to describe using words and references to be able to convey that thing. So I think those tools are very good if you're a good art director. If you know what they call prompts here. It's just if you know your art history, if you know pop culture, if you know all of those things in terms of how to art direct someone or something, those tools become very powerful for you. I am using it on a branding project right now, which is
Ooh.
interesting because what we're doing is trying to explore looks for photography. So as I'm
Mm.
developing the branding for this client, they have something very specific in mind for how they want their images to look. So I can approach this in a few different ways, which I am, is pulling reference from the internet and saying it could look like this, and I curate it down. It's like, here's a sample of images that I think it could look like. I'm also using AI. Actually, my designer's using AI, and we could take the same kind of prompt brief from the client and art direct it to generate images for potential photography. So if you haven't been keeping up, Midjourney and a lot of these tools are doing things that are almost photoreal. Incredible, incredible. But again, you have to be a good art director for you to be able to get something good out of that. So I'm using it that way also to explore looks because that way they can keep generating stuff using this tool and we can explore a lot of ground. And then, I mean, the third way to do this is I hire a photographer and we go shoot and we spend a lot of money. And that's fine, but we don't even know what it is yet. So I think before that step, this is just an iterative step, right? We're just exploring. So reference, AI, and I'm seeing where this is going to lead us. I haven't shown this yet to the client, so I don't know how they're going to
Mhm.
respond. But for me, I brought it up with them, and they're totally open to it. They're like, "Sure, that sounds like a great way to explore." Because we're just exploring. We're not committing. We're not going to
Yeah,
use that image for their brand. It's just a
for
way
sure.
for us to reference. Like this is what it can look like. What does the lighting style look like? What lenses are we going to use? Like how does this feel? And AI is a great tool to just explore that, and it's getting better and better.
Yeah, I think years back, before people had to show packaging designs, they
Hmm.
had to, I remember my aunt used to do this way back when. She used to print it first, actually create mock-ups out of it, cutting it,
Hmm.
creasing it and all
Hmm.
of that. And then we found Photoshop, with pre-made mock-ups now. We just paste our
Hmm.
image there and it's pretty quick for us. Like, it's just a mock-up. It's not going to be the final product. It's just to be on the same visual page with the clients, right? I think
Right.
AI will help a lot for that. It's another way of showing what you can do, or brainstorming, or mood boarding, with the clients.
Right. I think another way to put it is AI and any of these tools, whether they're mockups that you do manually or things that are automated, they're a reference point. They are a way to help you convey your idea better. It's not the
And save
idea.
time.
The idea is here, right? That comes out of you,
Yeah,
but it just helps you convey your vision and look at it from different ways, right? And just help shortcut that process so that you can do the hard work after.
yeah. Yeah, and save time and money for sure. Like if you are
Hmm.
gonna spend a lot of money just going on a site and shooting it just for a mock-up or references, right? You're gonna save all of
Right.
that so that you have your reference point pretty head on and you can
Hmm.
just work on it. Okay. I think a lot of people have been asking, where do you think this technology is going in the future? Because AI is here to stay, and I think we need to adapt it rather be afraid of it. So
Yes.
where do you think this technology is going, and how we can, as designers, use it more? Like you've given one
Hmm.
example as a photographer, videographer. How
Hmm.
can brand designers or illustrators use perhaps AI in their everyday, day-to-day life?
Yeah, I think AI, you could already see if you look at the latest Adobe updates, they're giving you very clear
Mm,
examples of how they do it, how they feel it's an ethical way to still respect artists while giving them the tools to explore more. And that's all this is. It's just a tool to explore more. So, where I see this going, and I know very little of this thing, I am no expert by any means, is it's just going to be a layer on top of what we already do. That's all it is. It's gonna be a layer. So things that again are gonna help make things a little bit more convenient or get to the point better. Of course, this needs to go through a lot of testing and iterations for it to get great things out of it. And maybe it will never get there. Maybe it will get you to the point of it being good enough. And so what this is gonna do is like if everybody's good enough, you have to be exceptional to stand out. But the thing is,
yeah.
as a creative, as an artist, like that's never been different at any point in time. Like, yeah, we have new tools, but there have been plenty of developments over the past 100 years that have made your job as a creative so much easier. So much easier. Um, like you just gave the example earlier about having to do
Yeah.
physical mock-ups and photographing versus mock-ups that you just drop in the logo and bing, it's already done, right? Would you trade that? Would you go back? Like it's good to have those
No.
skills to be resourceful, to know how to do those things. I think that's where some of these hand and manual skills are actually very powerful. And I think people who know that stuff, like they have more tools to work with. Because when the computer can't spit it out for you, if that's all you know, you're stuck with that. People who are very resourceful, it's like, okay, well, I know what this computer is doing for me. It's doing these five things. I'm going to go back to step one and do this myself and then see how that changes the process, the result. Right. So I think it's just going to be a layer on top of what we do. I think it's still important to learn core skills, things that need to be processed up here. Again, like storytelling, um, and making sure that the idea that you're trying to put out in the world is novel, interesting, and new, or something that's deeply rooted from what you want to say, what you want to put out there. So again, I think the tool is just a layer that's going to be helpful. It's
Mm,
going to be in everything that we use, but it still requires the user input. And the sharper you can make this, the more you exercise and practice what's in here, the better off you're going to be. And if you're too scared to adopt the tools, you might get left behind because these are things that I think if you understand how it can be used, they're not quite so scary. If you just change your perspective on anything, if you try to look at it from the other side, like maybe if you're really against this, you might just change your lens as a sake of empathy and just
mm,
say, why would somebody use this? What are the benefits? There was this great exercise I want to share with you because this has kind of changed my life in terms of empathy. And that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I think no one really knows how to do it, or they don't practice it. And a few years ago, I was in the Alt MBA program, which is by Seth Godin. So it's this short 5-week program where it's a leadership program and it helps you become a better decision maker, leader, empathetic person that can communicate with others. But there was one exercise that was mind blowing for me, which it was an empathy exercise. They ask you to take a subject, something that you're very passionate about, and then write an essay defending the other side. So for me, the what I ended up doing was okay. Um, at the time, I was really thinking about racism. It was very big at the time. I mean, it still is, but an issue of like white nationalist. And so my assignment was defending them. So going on to the other side, like why are they justified to feel the way that they do? It was a challenging thing to do because
Yeah.
all of my nature, all of my experience has led me to look from the other side. But going to that side, it was kind of interesting. It revealed a lot for me to just understand why they feel the way that they do and why they might be justified in feeling the way that they do. Because there is no real truth in this world. There's only perspectives, and each of us only have a small sliver. But the more we can practice expanding that and looking at the world from different perspectives, the more we can understand that nothing is black and white. There's a lot of grays and a lot of color. And you know, that's just life. And I think AI is one of those things. Look at it from a different perspective, and you might understand why people use it, and then maybe how it might be useful for you.
Yeah, around that empathy thing, I remember having this conversation long time ago with Chris Doe. And I
Hmm.
remember it, I never thought about it in that way, like, thinking from someone else's perspective. A small thing he said was, why should that client hire you? Think from their perspective, what are they getting? It was a small
Hmm.
prompt, but it changed the whole game in my head. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, why
Right.
should they, right? Because they have plenty of designers to go through, maybe even better people. Why
Hmm.
me? You know? But yeah, that's a good way to think about any problem I think we have or any fear we have. But yeah, that's a nice one. We can just go on a last thing, which is finding the creative sparks. How to find a creative spark? A lot of people are just going in fields which are paying high right now, but they are not, very happy with that field particularly, and they don't know,
Hmm.
they want to be creative, but they don't know in which field they have to go or want to go. So my usual answer for them is just try and be experimental, right? If you want to just try illustration, try and draw and see if that works for you, or in depth, of course, but design, learn about graphic design, branding, and this and that, and just get yourself into it rather than being just sure about that, yes, I want to go into UI or UX.
Kind of piece of advice that I can give here is just to be curious. Be very curious about things. And when something grabs your curiosity, then pursue that and go deep. So, in some things, I think we get very caught up in thinking that creativity means that the output has to be a high paying job. Sometimes creative exploration or anything that is creative, whether you're practicing and learning music, you're painting, you're making videos, it doesn't all need to result in money. And I think that's the brainwashing that we've unfortunately been taught growing up, and especially in the modern day. Like, how do you monetize everything? And the output for certain things can just be joy. It's like I
True.
practice the guitar not because I'm going to be a rock star on stage and have an album and sell millions of copies. I have no aspiration for them. My aspiration is like it helps me unwind. It's fun. It's a way to express myself in a different way, and it brings me joy. I love dancing. I've been dancing since 1999, since I was like 15 years old, and it's something that I still do today. I used to compete in big competitions, but the thing is, it's like I have no aspiration for that. My body is old. Now I just do it for fun. So I'm not making any money on it. I use it to uh, join people that I am like minded with. I get to express myself creatively, and I get a little workout out of it, and it's fun. Every so often, you might find one of these things that overlaps with a business endeavor, and then it makes sense where those two things can combine and connect. So going back to my history, just starting a YouTube channel, I love designing things. I love building things. That's just my nature. Some of those things have given me money working for clients, but being able to express myself on YouTube, my only goal was just to do that. It's like share my project because it was so fun. What's resulted from that? It's like, well, now sponsors have reached out. Now I'm collaborating on physical products because these are things that I am deeply passionate about. And I found opportunities and ways where those things overlap naturally. And it feels like it's a good natural fit for me to connect those dots. So if I can have somebody fund the things that are very fun and enjoyable for me, I bring them into the process. But if it doesn't fit, I just say no. It doesn't matter how much money you're going to pay me. I'm not going to do it, right? So it's just finding those opportunities where there's a nice natural overlap and fit, and just being open to those. But you won't know unless you go out there and explore, unless you do things, unless you're curious, and then just give in to the things that really call you. And, at the end of the day, it's just a balance, right? You still have to make money, you still have to earn a living, but you also have to enjoy it. And just learning where those things balance out, I think, you just have to try and you just have to explore and give it your best.
My personal thing is not to get stuck in one field when you're just exploring things out. I
Mhm.
found it really helpful in my career as well. I never thought that being an illustrator, being a designer, knowing how to edit stuff, animate stuff, all of this together is going to help me out become an art director. And I
Mhm.
kind of, you know, went out of that bubble that, oh, this might not be possible for me. And last year when I got hired by Oliver Agency for like Budweiser and everything as an art director, and I was like, oh God, am I capable of this? But
Mhm.
when you get the work and yeah, I know how to do all these things. I can direct these people because I have done all of these things together, separately,
Mhm.
individually. Yeah, kind of getting that confidence back because I've been a generalist all my life till now has
Mhm.
helped me a lot. And I always tell, like, oh, experiment. It's completely fine. It's not the end of the world because you're like switching fields or something. You don't even have to switch fields. It can just be like a hobby, like you said.
Mhm.
But it has been an amazing shift for me when I started to explore things out of illustration and out of design only.
Yeah, definitely. It adds to your tool belt. I think where a lot of people do get caught up, and it's okay to explore things on the surface, but if you want to be known for something, if you want to be hired for something, you have to be exceptional at it. You can't be good. Good is
Hmm.
not good enough. You have to be exceptional if you really want to be the household name for something. If you really want people to think of you first, like your question that Chris asked you, like why would the client hire you for this? You have a good answer if you're exceptional,
Hmm.
right? And you can't
True.
be exceptional at something unless you put in practice.
I
Lots and
agree.
lots of practice.
Because I know, because I'm not good at asking questions and doing this sort of a thing. But hey, I'm trying,
Mhm.
right? And I think the more I do it, the better I will be in the future. And I don't think I have to wait for it because I've seen even you saying jump into
Mhm.
things before even you're ready. Like I've
Mhm.
heard you say that things before. And I
Mhm.
completely 100% agree on those things.
Yeah. Even though I'm like a big planner, like you can't plan a lot of things, right? And there's certain things where you just have to say, okay, let's go. Because it doesn't matter how much you research something or plan something, like things will happen the way they want to happen.
True.
And you can never be fully prepared for how something's going to challenge you, right? So, but going out there and actually doing it and then failing and then learning, that's how you learn. And then that's how you grow. One other tip when it comes to exploring, and this is something that I learned from Jack Butcher, who runs Visualize Value. I don't know if you know that Instagram account, but he's somebody
Yeah.
that it's very minimal. It's like black and white, just line art and typography.
Hmm.
And it expanded over the years. But I interviewed him many years ago, and one tip that he shared with me is like why he was able to grow that account so quickly was because of two things. One, he wanted to become a better visual communicator, a better graphic designer. That was his goal. So, in order for him to practice as a subject matter, he infused something that he was very passionate about, which is philosophy. So, he reads philosophy all the time on the side. So, what better way to practice is visual communication by visualizing value, by visualizing the things that he's learning and then putting that out there. So, for people who are practicing, let's say for you, you want to become a better interviewer on camera. Well, what is the subject matter that you're passionate about? And it seems like very clear here. It's about creativity, but maybe you can even get more refined. Like, what is something you're so passionate about that you do this in your free time? So, what's something you
Hmm.
want to practice and get good at? And then, what's something passionate? And where those overlap, that might give you a lot of fuel to keep practicing and iterating and doing it over and over and over again until you get very proficient, until you get great, until you become exceptional.
Agreed. Agreed. I think when I asked Chris about this, like I'm not so good on camera when we started the Young Gun season 2. He's like,
Hmm.
I used to be so scared when I first started like talking publicly with people. I think
Hmm.
the more I did it, the better I became. Was it the same for you as well? Or were you like, oh, meant for stage kind of a person? Because you used to do performing
Oh,
arts,
no.
right?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely somebody like many people, you're just afraid to speak publicly. Public speaking is like one of the
Mm,
number one fears for most people. But I think the difference is it's not just doing the iterations. I think some people also fail on that, where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this 1,000 times, but they didn't learn anything. I think the key is you do something, you record it, you put it out there at a point where you can get feedback and analyze it. It's like, okay, I made my first video. Great. What was good about it? And what's one thing I can do better? And then iterating
improving.
that way, making an improvement at every step. Otherwise, the difference is if you don't, if you're not analytical about your own work and conscious about what you can do better or looking for ways to explore and make it better, you're going to take 1,000 steps in the same place. If you're constantly improving, looking at every step on how you can get better, you're going to take 1,000 steps in a direction. Maybe it's meandering a little bit, but you're still moving forward. At that point, you can look back and say, look how far I've come. Look at all the things I've
Right.
explored and experimented. Here are all the things that work and I continue to do today. And here are the things I'm still learning about.
Yeah, that's true. Keep improving, taking notes, keeping your ego aside. I think
Mhm.
constructive criticism does help a lot. Having mentors does help a lot. I think passion for improving is the biggest thing. If you don't have that, I don't think you will approach anyone to give you any criticism in the end.
Right.
Well, yeah, those are the questions from my end. Thank you so much for saying yes to all of this. I know there are
Oh, you're
lots
very
and
welcome.
tons of questions out there, but this is it for now. This is the
Yeah.
only
Thank you so
thing I'm going to
much.
trouble you with today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Thank you so much. Have a great day to you. Bye bye, everyone.